Happy Friday. It's July 5th, 2019. This is my intuition video, and this week was talking about let's focus on money. Let's focus on that's what I talked about on Monday. And so in my writing this week, what part of it is for me is desire and looking at my thoughts around what it is with money, or if I want to be specific in like what it is that I'm wanting to focus on. Is it earning money? Is it buying something? So we have a lot of beliefs, which remember I talked about, like beliefs are just thoughts repeated over and over again. Those can be our own. They can come from our families. They can come from society. But that is what we're going to look at. So I did a quote today, and I'm using Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich book today. I just thought it pertains a lot to money. It's was very popular also in the 1920s. I often talk about, hey Amy, I often talk about Florence Scovel Shinn. She was also writing very similar books at the time in the 1920s. But his quote is, if the thing you wish to do is right and you believe in it, go ahead and do it. Never mind what they say if you meet with temporary defeat. They do not know that every failure brings with it the seed of the equivalent success. That's just like one paragraph in this book. It's out of chapter 3, Desire. And you could just stay on that paragraph for a while and pull that apart. But I will say that whenever we're talking about intuition, we're also talking about desire. And we're also talking about, we have these feelings that connect us to our intuition, our gut, whatever you want to call it, that's telling us what to do and what not to do. And that has not been something that has really been practiced. We don't teach it in education. You don't hear people talking about it all that much. I am somebody that talks about it a lot. I have a group of friends in my book club. We talk about our intuition a lot, but this is a constant practice. And so when Napoleon Hill in the 1920s was talking about this, he's talking about intuition. In my opinion, that's how I'm reading it. So if you wish to do what you wish to do is right, like if your intuition says this is right and you believe in it, right? So that's like two big pieces. We get a desire, we have an intuition, a nudge to go somewhere, do something. Oh, do we believe in it? Well, one of my favorite stories, and I might have already told this, and I think he talks about it, and I've seen it somewhere else, but is the story of Henry Ford. So Henry Ford, and I'm going to probably tell you this, like my version of how I remember it, because it has to do more with following your intuition and following your desires. So he was working for, I think, Cadillac, where like only like very wealthy people like had even the opportunity to have a car. And he had the intuitive idea that I could make these so that everybody could have a car. And his dad, he was like on a salary, good salary. The idea of his family and his dad was keep your job at the job you're at for Cadillac. I think it was Cadillac. And correct me if I'm wrong. Please message me. But that's what I'm remembering. And it doesn't really matter for the story, and if he had a pension, just retire. You don't need to do this. You're crazy if you think everybody's going to be able to drive. Nobody's going to give up their horses. Like literally, that was like the talk then, right? Nobody's going to give up their horses for cars. And Henry Ford believed in it. This sentence is exactly him. He believed in what his intuition was telling him. And I guarantee he had failure along the way, but he knew that this was something he could do. And Henry Ford created the first manufactured factories of cars for people, and look where we are today. Now we need some other stuff, like we need solar cars, but that'll all come. And so we have to believe in it. And we will have people that'll say like, well, are you crazy? Like, what are you doing? And you have to really check. And if that in here is telling you, no, this is right for me and I believe in it, just you follow it. And believe that it will all work out. And also believe that when you come across what you might feel like is a failure, it is going to be success. You have to just keep following that. And I know that to be true. It's kind of a lot. The book is great. If you're interested in starting a book club, Think and Grow Rich is a good one to do. We're doing Florence Scovel Shinn, The Game of Life and How to Play It. We're doing her little book. But I also want to end with this too, because that's not really talking about money, but it is talking about money, because look at what Henry Ford had to do. He had to go from taking like a set salary and take the risk of following his intuition. And I guarantee you, Henry Ford and his family made a lot more money after that. But I'm going to just talk a little bit about limited thinking around that and how we can break through some of that. Because I really believe that when we have a desire for something, that we really, really do have the answers that come to us, but our beliefs sometimes get in the way. So I'm going to share a story about getting to California, and it has a little bit to do with money and just how my thinking process was years ago. And I was just kind of beginning this process of listening. And so when I wanted to move to California, I was working in a treatment center actually for kids in gang rehabilitation, and I was making like $10 an hour, which in 1994 was good money. And it's probably good money in some areas here. It's a hard way to live in California, but I got laid off. We had lost our contracts with the state, and so I had a plan to come to California, and I had then had to spend all the money I had saved to live, and I didn't know how I was going to get to California. And a friend of mine worked at a restaurant. Actually, a few people asked me, what about doing restaurant work? So my thinking around that was I would have to start at the bottom and work my way up. So this is a belief system of thought that wasn't mine. It was kind of given to me, that I'm not going to go work at Denny's. That was like my first thought was, I am not going to go work at Denny's. I'm not going to go work at Denny's for $2 an hour, because in Arizona it was a right to work state. You made like $2.13 an hour plus tips. And I just was like, I'm not doing that. Second person comes to me and says, what about restaurant work? And again, that belief system was, I don't want to work at Denny's. That was like where my head went. So I refused it. Third person comes to me. Oh, he goes, I work at this restaurant in Phoenix. It's right by the Biltmore, Arizona Biltmore. Those of you who are watching from Phoenix, you know where the Arizona Biltmore is. There's a great restaurant called Christopher's. It's a bistro. It's really high end. He's like, I work on the upstairs maitre d' in the private room. I could probably get you a job interview. And I'm thinking, all right, this is a third person. I'm going to just say yes. And so I say yes to the interview. I go to the interview. I really don't have restaurant experience. I sit down. I almost leave because I sit in this bistro and I'm like, what am I doing here? This is because the belief system was I had to start from the bottom to go up to make money. It was defeating to me. So for me, it was just like, I'm not going to do it, or I'm not going to have that desire. If I have to do it this one way, I don't want to have it. So I just like let go of it and don't think about it. And that's just not a good way to do it. Thank God I said yes to this interview. So I go to this interview, I sit there, I go through the interview, and the manager says basically to me, he has a psychology degree, and all that's on my application is I'd worked in treatment centers, I went to college, and I'd worked with gang kids in rehabilitation. This is not restaurant work. But he says to me, you know what? You're smart enough to do that. I'll give you 2 weeks to learn the job. And if you can learn this in 2 weeks, you've got the job and we'll keep you. And I made so much money at this job for very little hours, and it enabled me to save money to move to California. But if I would have stayed, if I didn't say yes to that person coming to me because that old belief system was wanting to tell me I had to do it this way, I would have never even probably gotten here. And so watch the beliefs, watch what pops up when you have this desire for something. Watch to make sure, like, is that true? And that's where like our writing every day comes in. That's where like talking to other people who are on this path comes in, because they still come up for me. Like when I say I want something, like right now I want something, and I'm not going to share out loud what it is yet because I don't want to, but I will probably eventually before the end of the year. And I'm like, I have a lot of those belief systems coming forward, and I know they're not right. And so I don't want to focus on those. I want to focus on believing that through every failure there is an eventual success, and believing that I don't have to live in that old way of thinking, that I can open up my desire. And if I have an intuitive idea and I follow it, that's what I'm supposed to be doing. Anyways, that was kind of long for Friday, but that was what was going on this morning in my writing and then the reading. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you're back and watching on Monday. I'm going to post some videos on YouTube, so if you want to go back and watch some of those there, they'll be there as well. And I will talk to you guys soon. Have a good weekend. Bye.